Good morning. I know it's a bye week. It's the best place to be in a bye week, right? But we can't go without at least one OH. Awesome. Great way to start the morning. Good morning. Can you all hear me so I can stop meddling with this mic? Awesome. Good morning. My name is Kim Douglas. I'm the director of the Department of Neighborhoods under the amazing Mayor, Andrew Ginther. Welcome this morning to the Neighborhood Best Practices Conference for 2025. Can you believe we've been doing this since 1999? I know, longevity, because it's such a good and rich conversation every year. Thank you all so much for coming together today. It's truly wonderful to see so many familiar and new faces here in this place. Last year when I started, I had been on the job 7 days when I came to this event. I will say this year, I feel like I'm amongst friends and family, and that's an amazingly wonderful feeling to have. Before we move forward, I would like to see if there are any additional elected officials from other jurisdictions in the room. With that, our theme this year is planting seeds for change. And that really resonates. It makes us ask, what kind of change are we truly wanting to cultivate together in our neighborhoods? What essential nutrients will you personally add to ensure that growth is positive, peaceful, and truly nurturing? And will these be perennial seeds that come back every year, contributing to sustainable growth year after year? Just like in any garden, we must be strategic about where we plant our seeds. We need to remember to provide ample space for growth and ensure our seeds are compatible with their surroundings and existing plants. I think that speaks to the uniqueness of every area commission in the room. While the Department of Neighborhoods does our best to support you in all the ways that you tell us that you need, there's so much individuality. There's so much homegrown talent. There's so much innate growth, worth, and warmth in each community that it is essential that we plant the right seeds in the right soil. And that's why we've come together here today. There's so much to consider when planning. Our ideas, our thoughts, our dreams. For a truly flourishing garden, we know we need many dedicated gardeners, seeders, waterers, nutrients, tools, and plenty of patience. That's why we're all here today, to learn from each other regarding what it takes to make our plants grow. With that, we'll start with our program this morning, and I would like to bring to the stage the gentleman that gave me the opportunity to serve in this role, our amazing Mayor, Mayor Andrew Ginther.
Appreciate you. Good morning. What a great morning here in the city of Columbus. I feel like I'm at a big family meeting. It's so great to see even some classmates from Whetstone High School over here who's wearing a different shade of blue than the navy and white at Whetstone High School, but some of our great police officers and public servants and the entire Department of Neighborhoods staff. Let's give it up for the Department of Neighborhood staff. You've done a great job. We're really blessed with some great folks. And you really have to have incredible people working at the city directly with folks at our area commission and civic association level. One of the things I committed when I became mayor 100 years ago was that my top 3 priorities would be neighborhoods, neighborhoods, neighborhoods. You've heard it once or twice. That's why this work is so important. It's why we're helping to organize and galvanize and lift up great neighborhoods that have been left out and left behind of Columbus's success story, like the Hilltop, Eastland, and Linden. The best days of those neighborhoods lie ahead. But every neighborhood matters. Every neighborhood is special. Great neighborhoods make up great cities. And we know how important our neighborhoods are. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for committing to this work. Thank you for spending a beautiful Saturday morning planning for the future, thinking about how you can continue to make your neighborhood safer, healthier, and stronger in partnership with others. And I have to give a special shout out. I know I may be disclosing something that will become public here in a few minutes, but it's no secret that Becky Wolcott is one of our best, strongest advocates for neighborhoods in the entire city, Becky. For decades, you have put your neighbors first and made your neighborhood stronger. You've been a great partner, and you haven't been shy telling me exactly what needed to be done, which is important, right? When you work for 1 million people, you need help. You need folks on the ground closest to the community to say, this is what we need, and this is how we're going to go about doing it. So, Becky, thank you for your advocacy. Congratulations on a well-deserved award. Thank you all for all that you do. I couldn't be more excited about Columbus's future, and it's because of each and every one of you. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You see how he was able to just step up and step out, and I need a step? I'm not going to say anything about that, though. You didn't see it. So we are living in unprecedented times, but we've seen this before, and we know that we'll get through it. And part of getting through that is having amazing legal counsel for our city. With that, I'd like to bring up our city attorney, Mr. Zach Klein.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be, as the mayor said, amongst family and friends, and looking out in the audience and seeing, I think, nearly everyone in this room that I've spent the past 15 years working along side by side to improve our city, to improve our neighborhoods. And I want to pick up kind of where the mayor left off, and that is with a thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do. I know that you get paid really well being involved in block watches and civic associations and area commissions, but you do it for the love of your community, and you do it for the love of the city. And it's not lost on me. And the work that we do with my property action team in particular, and identifying drug houses and problem properties, nuisance abatement work, like that starts with each and every one of you. We cannot build those cases. We cannot clean up our neighborhoods without the tips that you provide on a regular basis. So continue to not be shy in passing along the problems that are in your community, because we all serve the city in different capacities. We're all fellow public servants at the area commission level, the civic association level, the block watch association, or an elected official. We are all serving our fellow neighbors. And I think at this particular time at the Neighborhood Best Practices Conference, I'm gonna declare the golden rule for neighborhoods and the best practices. Be a good neighbor. May sound simple, but in today's tumultuous times, just being a good neighbor, I think is the golden rule of the best practice you could possibly have at a Neighborhood's Best Practices Conference. As difficult as the times are right now, it means a lot just to reach across the aisle, reach across the street, look over the fence, and engage the person that maybe you don't know. Because those interactions, they'll build like wildfire and strengthen your neighborhood, your street, and our city. And then it spreads city to city. Then it spreads state to state. And then we can strengthen our country. Because we need that right now, but it will start with every person in this room. And the fact that you're here, I know that fire is in your belly to make it happen. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the partnership, and have a great conference. Director.
Thank you, City Attorney Klein. He has better knees and he's taller. How am I going to do this, right? So now we move on to one of the much anticipated parts of our program today. We know that Dan Charles was a stalwart in this community, and we recognize him for the work that he did by honoring those who walk in that same path of service and leadership and creating community here in the city of Columbus. I'd like to call to the stage now, I'm gonna say a daughter of the Department of Neighborhoods, who has gone on to lead in our city in other ways. Neighborhoods is one of the greatest training grounds that you will ever have, whether it's from an area commission learning how to serve others, whether it is in our liaison group that allows her to go out and spread her wings. And so I'd like to call to the stage now Assistant Director Catherine Cole from our Columbus engagement area.
And so I'll introduce you again after Becky comes up. Great. Good morning, everyone. So one of the best parts of my job when I served as a neighborhood liaison and now with community engagement is getting to work alongside such amazing community members who inspire me. And Becky Walcott is one of those individuals. When I first met Becky 3 years ago on the far south side, I was immediately struck by her energy and determination. She never just points out the problems, she steps in with solutions, rolls up her sleeves, and brings people together. Working with her inspired me not just as a professional, but as a community member and a friend. I'm grateful to stand here today, even though I hate public speaking, to celebrate Becky. Becky's leadership started back in 2004 with the Southern Pines Block Watch. At the time, her neighborhood was struggling with crime and nuisance properties. She partnered with law enforcement to make her community safer. Under her guidance, her block watches quickly grew from 2 to 5, strengthening her entire area. She was also incredibly instrumental in the reopening of the Scioto Southland Recreation Center. She painted walls, she fundraised, she worked at the concession stands, you even staffed events to ensure that it became a true hub of community life again. And for more than 15 years, she served on both the Civic Association and the Far South Area Commission in many different roles. For over 40 years, Becky, her husband Bruce, have raised their 5 children on the far south side. Her love for her neighborhood runs deep. Her passion is contagious. She is collaborative, solutions-driven, and focused on ensuring every resident feels the same joy and love on the far south side as she has carried with her. This is why Becky is the perfect recipient for the 2025 Dan Charles Award. Her story reminds us that leadership is about persistence, partnership, and a whole lot of love. Congratulations, Becky. Thank you for inspiring me, and thank you for inspiring all of us.
My picture. Thank you all so much. Catherine, Mayor Ginther, Mayor of Neighborhoods, Director Douglas, David Huey, I haven't seen you, but I saw you earlier, and Rebecca. This is such an honor to be chosen for this special award. The Dan Charles Award represents leadership and kindness. And I have admired and been mentored by so many past recipients for years, never expecting to accept this award. So again, just thank you all. I, of course, want to thank my wonderful husband, Bruce. Everybody wave to Bruce, that's what we all do to him, for helping me to be able to attend the countless meetings, helping with litter cleanups that he didn't know were coming up, and playing community handyman on many occasions. We're blessed to have, as Catherine said, 5 wonderful children. I always say Bruce and I raised 5 of the best people I'll ever know. They have collectively blessed us with 11 grandchildren. Thank you. That's my greatest honor. They keep me smiling, laughing, but more importantly, they make me aware of the world they're going to grow up in. For those of you who don't know, I live in far South Columbus. Catherine Call, my friend, my partner in crime, was our liaison, as she stated. She served all of South Columbus through the Department of Neighborhoods. Now, when she left Neighborhoods, I'm just going to tell you, I didn't want to share her with the rest of you. But very quickly, she came to the rest of the city as she did our part of town with that can-do spirit. And trust me when I tell you, you are all blessed to have Catherine now. If you are a Southsider, you know the great Nancy Pryor Solly. I don't see Nancy here today, but I had to mention her, of course. I always called her my personal directory. You don't know what to do about something, you call Nancy. She'll give you someone's phone number. And then she says, and this is when you know you have power, she says, tell them Nancy said to call you. Whatever the problem is, trust me, it's fixed. The great Sharon Ware is with us today. Sharon taught me so much about strategic planning, how to take on a challenge. I use all of those skills still today. So thank you so much. My dear friend Sheila Eubanks and I, with other commissioners, work in the far South Columbus. Her and I had a long relationship back to Mayor Coleman's coalition for Nonviolent Columbus Days. That's when we met. Her and I like to play good cop, bad cop. We change roles up a little bit when needed. But anyhow, it's so great to have them. And then I obviously want to thank, again, my children, my husband, and then some of the dearest friends I'll ever have. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. It means the world. You guys are the best. Because I believe every moment is a teaching moment, and I'll do this quickly. I just want to share that if this is your first or your 15th Best Practice Conference, you made the right decision to come here today and either get engaged or stay engaged with each other. Share your best practices. Serving my community has given me friendships that will last a lifetime. The knowledge to empower my community strengthens my love for my neighborhood every day. I know my area is not without its issues. With determination, I truly believe we can build a place that continues to be where we want to raise our children, the children of tomorrow. Just like us, they will be empowered and ready to prosper in a community that served them well. We owe it to those seniors that we keep that community a great place that they can live out the best parts of their lives. You know, I hear from people I've grown up with or meet throughout my travels, and they say, "Why do you still live down there?" Well, I'll tell you, I love it. It's where I grew up. It's where we raised our children. I'm there with the seniors that built my community. It's the history of a hardworking community and all that they accomplished. It's the memories of those cornfields that are now almost all gone, but I know they are becoming homes for new families. I can say everybody can do something, or I always say this, everyone can do something. Go volunteer at your rec center. Ask, can I help at the concession stands today? Work those holiday events. Go hand out candy on trunk or treat in the community. Help coach a team. Answer the phones. Whatever you can do, do your part. Call in that vacant house. Pick up that litter. Check on your elderly neighbor. Welcome a new neighbor to your community. Offer a walking tour. Tell them about the local stores. And introduce them to other neighbors. Go to your meetings. Ask questions. Learn the process. If you're a regular at a meeting, introduce yourself to a newcomer. Make them feel welcome. I have learned one thing. We have a voice, and we are heard. I've learned the process is so slow, and it takes a lot to get there, but that reward is so great. Go meet your library staff. They're so informative. They can be your best ally for stats and information. When your council members come to your community, go see them at that meeting. Go like you are going to the circus. Get up, run over to that rec center and meet your council members. They don't know everything about your community. You do. Watch out for your neighbors, report suspicious persons, stand out at your door, your windows, watch the children on their way to school in the morning. Make sure they got safely to that school building, safely to that bus stop. The smallest things make a difference in a community. Go cheer on the athletes at your local high schools. There are some great games being played, and trust me, those kids, your support means the world to them. Go Friday night, watch those football games. They're amazing. So anyhow, I don't want to take much more time. I do want to close today saying this. I'm so grateful to have been acknowledged for doing something I love and enjoy. I hope I can always say I served my community to the best of my ability, but most importantly, that I served with grace and kindness. So again, thank you all so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I just want to apologize very quickly. You're going to see a great exodus. Again, enjoy the conference, but my family and I have a very important engagement that we need to get to this afternoon. So God bless you all and thank you. Isn't this beautiful? This is beautiful.
Can we have your family come
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Come on, family.
Well, come on, family. You heard the mayor.
Thank you, sir. I was asking. That is perfect.
up? Get in there, Bruce.
David, please. Yes. Catherine.
This is part of my family.
You guys get in the middle.
And we are gonna. If I could get the mayor, Ms. Walcott, her husband, I just heard your name. Bruce, thank you. Oh, it's a daughter.
Yep.
You're shorty. Oh, okay.
Here, do we need to move over?
Yeah.
People covered by that podium.
She's used to being up front.
And if you would, right behind. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfred. Alfred takes the best.
Oh, gosh.
Congratulations again, Becky. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Director Douglas.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you all for being here to support such an amazing accomplishment. I'm going to turn attention this way if you all want to make your graceful exit. We have a speaker with us today that is no stranger to anyone in this room. So last year we had a special keynote speaker, Dante Wood Spikes. Is he in the building today? He is a staple of the community in so many ways. His goal is to educate and connect the world beyond perceptions and stereotypes. This year, I can't wait for you to hear from this year's keynote. Matt Habash with the Mid-Ohio Food Collective strives to work together with our neighborhoods in improving community health, decreasing poverty, and addressing food securities to help people thrive. During my previous time here in the city, I worked for City Council as the aide to then Councilman Kevin Boyce, who went on to become the commissioner. And at that time, he was president pro tem to Council President Matt Habash. During that time, I was able to see his leadership. I was comforted by knowing that he was leading us in the city. And so in my return to the city, it was no surprise that he was still in service, although it wasn't public service anymore. His commitment to the city through his service to its residents was admirable then, and he continues to serve now through his commitment to ensure that food insecurity is a brief and temporary experience for anyone. It's no surprise that all these years later, and I'm not sure if that makes me old or, but that was 20 years ago. And here he is, still standing in the service that he knows to the city. Please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Matt Mahabash. A very deserving lead.
Good morning. I'm not sure you need a keynote speaker after hearing Becky talk, because that's about as good as it gets in terms of why it is so important for the work that each and every one of you do. I've had the privilege, and a couple things. I had the privilege first. When I left City Council at the end of '06, the person they picked to replace me was Andy Ginther. So there's been this long history in that particular space. And Zach Klein worked for the Mid-Ohio Food Bank at that time for a couple years as well. So there's been this connection. And I think that speaks volumes about the connectivity of public and community service in this particular community and how well we do that together. I couldn't think of a better title than Planting Seeds of Change to talk a little bit about the transformation of what we're doing in the world of Mid-Ohio Food Bank to Mid-Ohio Food Collective, and how we're trying to address some of the issues and truly go upstream in terms of addressing some of the issues. I'm going to tell you a little bit. I started my career at St. Stephen's Community House in 1978. So I come at this from a very deep understanding of community. I had an amazing mentor in John Maloney, who happened to live on the south side on Lawrence Avenue and never moved from that house. But he taught me a lot, and what he taught me that has always stuck with me, he said the best social service program was a good paying job with benefits. And I've said that a lot, and I had the privilege of picking Kevin Boyce to join City Council, and Kevin today still talks about that as he's now a county commissioner, in terms of that really is what this is all about at the end of the day. So how do we connect the dots? And when you talk about planting seeds of change, I had a dream when I took the job, and I left St. Stephen's and went to the food bank, which was around the corner at 17th and Joyce in the Linden area, that I wanted to go out of business. My dream was that in 20, 30 years, nobody would know what a food bank was, that we literally would have solved the issue of hunger. So I tell everybody I have failed miserably at my life's dream. We have gotten much bigger. The first year we started, that I was there in '84, we gave out 3 million pounds of food. Last year we gave out 85 million pounds of food. So the good news is we found that food. The bad news is the demand is that high and today into what's going on. So for us, it was how do you transform now a 45-year organization? And we began on a journey back around 2010 when we moved into the new facility down in Grove City on Brookham. And one of the things that I was challenged by community leaders was to build a better system. Food banking had historically started with the idea of just supplying extra food. One man, John Van Hangel, we talk about planting seeds of change. One gentleman, John Van Hangel, was recovering from a back injury. He lived in Minnesota, was in Phoenix, Arizona, and started to collect food for the soup kitchen at his church and collected way more food. The pastor said, you got to do something. You're getting more food than we can use. Instead of just trying to give that out to a few other agencies, he got the idea of creating a centralized warehouse, putting that food into the warehouse and letting other organizations in the Phoenix area collect it. That was the beginning of food banking. It was in the 70s, and I had the privilege of meeting him several years later when Ohio State played in those championship games out there. But it was really a beginning of a movement that today is there's 260 organizations across the United States, all part of the Feeding America network. We're the largest food bank in Ohio. There are 11 other food banks in Ohio, making sure that all 88 counties were served. So one person's idea has created the largest private sector food distribution system in America, and in the world for that matter. And so I think it's a beginning of that. That's what I talk about planting seeds of change. So fast forward to 2010, we're moving into new space, and this community leader said, can you build a more effective structure? Because food pantries got started because somebody in a church decided they needed the help. And we have 120 food pantries in Franklin County. And what I'm about to show you is the beginning of a transformation as we moved from the Mid-Ohio Food Bank to the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. And the reason we did that is we talk a lot about we're more than a food bank, that we do a lot of other things. I've had amazing partnerships, as we started Urban Farms of Central Ohio to partner with Nick somewhere in the building, does great work with Franklinton Farms. We pulled together a lot of those community groups. We were able to get starting with like $3 million of USDA grants. Sarah Lanke, who some of you on the South Side may know, used to work at the food bank, now is with Children's, with the South Side Collaborative. You know, she led the effort, and her and a group of other staff that I didn't intercede at all began to give out grants to a lot of the community gardens to help them thrive. It was the beginning of stepping into those kind of things. Right around the same time in 10, we also did diabetes research with Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation to look at the issue of food insecurity and diabetes. If you're diabetic and you're food insecure, can you manage your diabetes? Not easy, because you can't get access and afford the right foods. So we began to do that. At the same time, you know, we learned, you know, we saw what was happening as technology took over in the food industry. You know, we were largely dependent on the generosity of major food manufacturers, growers, retailers, et cetera, giving us food. The dry package industry dried up almost overnight. They got more effective and efficient. That's what they're supposed to do. They're in business to sell food, not to grow or buy things and build things that they aren't going to be able to use. So we saw that dry package good industry dry up. At the same time, we discovered that there was about 6 billion pounds of produce and about 5 or 6 items that they call the hard goods. You know, the apples, the potatoes, the onions, you know, we threw in oranges and a few other things. And we realized that we could go after that. We had to get better at what we were doing. You know, we had to learn and shift, you know, in the way we were operating, because we didn't have a lot of refrigeration, didn't have a lot of trucks, nor did our partner agencies. So, you know, we have over 600 partner agencies now. So as we step into this space, we realized we had to change, and we had to transform what we were doing. Our partners had to change. At the same time, I asked our board, and I get, you know, these really effective questions with our board wrestles with as retreats. And one of them at the time, around 2012, I asked my board, all of our partner agencies went out of business. You know, would the general public think the food bank was out of business? And they came back and said, no, create a different distribution model. You know, they're your amazing distribution model right now, but if they're not there, you got to recreate something. Your job is to get food to hungry people, you know, not just necessarily to be the wholesaler supplying the retail outlet, food bank, the food pantry. And so we began a transformation process at that point in time. And then fast forward a few years later, we were doing a summit with a lot of our, a full array of our partner agencies, customers that we were serving, donors that were giving us money, food companies, all in the same room for 3 days, and saying, how do we create a better, you know, mousetrap, and how do we do this better? One person said to us, I can't afford to shop at a food pantry. And we're like, what's that mean? And because the food's free. And she went, 2 days that pantry's open or the 2 days I work. Now, our core value at the food bank is customer centricity. It used to be client centricity. We don't like the word client. We use the word customer. We really want to treat people with dignity, you know, and we were like, well, we're not being very customer centric if the person can't get access to it, you know, because she's working, you know, so we had to transform. And this is the journey that we went through in that transformation. You know, as we look at all of this, we began to realize, and I like to walk around and talk. I hate standing behind these things. But, you know, as we looked at this, we said we're more than a food bank. We realized we had the farm. We had started the farm, you know, on the Clearfield, and we learned a valuable lesson. We were down on the south side. If you don't own the land, you can get kicked off. And we had a great partnership with Marion Franklin community, and we did great work at that farm. They community embraced it, and then we get kicked out of the land, you know, because somebody buys the old school, and we get booted. So we learned very quickly. We partnered with the land bank to acquire some land up on the hilltop, and I'll talk a little bit about that in transformation in a minute. You'll see some things more about that and what we were doing. We took that diabetes research and turned it into a connectivity. One of the things we learned from that diabetes was that doctors don't screen for food insecurity. They don't even ask the question. So we quickly stepped up and said, okay, how do we take what we learned from the research and turn that into something? Today, we've had over 50,000 patients get screened by doctors and referred to get fresh food. And so for us, that's the first step. The second step is, can we go back then and measure the health impact? What we learned from the diabetes research was, if we got you regular access to fresh food, we could lower your A1Cs. A 1-point drop in your A1Cs is an $8,000 annual cost savings to Medicaid. So, you know, so our argument was, you know, give us a few $100s to keep moving fresh food, and you keep the rest, and we lower government taxes, all those kind of things. People get healthier. At the end of the day, it was the beginning of a transformation to us and saying, we're going to talk more and more about the fact that food is health. And we really began to embark on that journey. You know, shortly thereafter, we got asked to participate in the Reeb Avenue Center. John Edgar was famous for getting me involved in things and then saying, here, run them. A great guy on the South Side, did amazing work. He said, hey, we got this Reeb Avenue project. They were well into constructing that work. And they said, we need, a program, a kitchen down there, and we need a market down there. And I'm like, we don't do kitchens. We hadn't been in the kitchen business. And we said, okay, if you let us do it a little differently. I didn't want to create, at that time, another soup kitchen, another food pantry. St. Aloysius Catholic Church was right across the street. And we said, we don't need to do the same. What could we do that was better for the community? And we embarked and we tried some things. COVID ended it for us, but we ran a kitchen operation where we absorbed a soup kitchen and gave 80 people free cards to get free food. If you couldn't afford food, you could volunteer for an hour and get a free meal. You got to pick the food. You didn't get handed what it was, kind of thing. And then paying customers could pay. We also realized that when you give out 72% of the meals for free, it's hard to sustain. And then COVID, shut everything down. We're actually serving the community better today than we were then. I mean, I think the latest count that I got from Shawana before school started back up was 500 people a day getting food out of there. In a pick-two model, they get to pick food. So it's the biggest, if you want to call it soup kitchen that there is now in the community. We didn't intend for that, but for us, it's what the community needed, and how do we step into that space and to be able to do that. So we evolved, but that kitchen was all based on the premise that we could cook food healthy. So, there's a lot of after-school programs and summer feeding programs, and they use a lot of processed food. We didn't want to do that. So we knew it was going to be more expensive. So we found donors to say, give us more money, let us cook healthy. We had chefs when we were doing that, teaching the kids from the Boys and Girls Club. They would come down, and the best story I can tell you out of that space was we tested with kids, that are in the Boys and Girls Club program, cooked carrots, carrot muffin, and carrot sticks with a dip. Those were the three. You know what they picked? Sticks, muffins, would have been my guess, because I had two kids. They never ate a cooked carrot in their life. Even my dog today won't eat cooked carrots. They picked the cooked carrots. They'd never had them before. And I said, you sugared them up, you did something. They said, no, we didn't. They just had not had it. They experienced. We had a community meal at night at that point in time on Tuesday nights. And some teenagers came in, and they were playing a video game, and one of my staff knew the video game because our kids played the same game. And went up to them and asked them what level they were on. They were like stunned. And she asked them, why are you here? She goes, my parents all work, and we know this has a great place to eat. And they said, go there and get a good meal. And they came in, and they said, by the way, can we have seconds? We said, we have barbecue chicken and salad that night. I said, well, do you want more chicken? And they said, no, I want that green stuff. I've never had it before. So beginning to introduce, those change processes for people we thought was real important. In terms of this. So we built our entire kitchen, Mid-Ohio Kitchen, and everything we do, even a summer feeding, all the things we do on that program. In the future, our goal is to also expand, and we'll talk about that with the Eastland Project here in a second, about really looking at can we cook healthy food and put it in the market so that we can make it a convenient choice for everybody. There's a market right across the street from here in Columbus State. And to help put more fresh food that's already cooked in there for the people that are going to school, got all those other challenges of life, grab a fresh meal, go home, and be able to heat it up, not have to make a meal from scratch after you're doing all those things and you're dead tired. So it was a wonderful opportunity. When we got into the Mid-Ohio markets, which is the last of the assets and the one that I really want to talk about, this was really what we were after. We were after improving the customer experience to reduce stigma. One of the things we wanted to do was to take away the stigma of somebody asking for help. Make it a grocery store experience, let them shop, pick their own foods. That was a big transformation from the typical model, which was a 3-day supply of food. We'll give you a bag. We built an entire model based on, and for food banking and pantries across the country, this is the same thing. 3-day supply of food, 9 meals, based on household size. That's what we were trying to strive for. And we quickly realized when our nutritionists did a pantry panic class for 4-H students, and said, you open up your pantry and you got some food on shelves, you don't have others, how do you make a meal as a kid, as a teenager? And we realized that's our normal client. They're not totally out of food. They're out of food the way we are out of food. We go shopping list. Shopping list is a list of all the things you don't have when you go to the grocery store. So we stepped into that space really trying to say, okay, we got to do things differently. Let them pick and choose the food so we're not wasting food and we can get it to everybody else that needs it. But also reduce the stigma of going. We want you welcoming you. We want you coming. We know a lot from our healthcare data that if you're coming regular to get fresh food, we're going to see health impact. And that's really what we were trying to measure. It's still what we're trying to measure today. Also increased consistency across the country. You got 120 food pantries, and you're at the mercy of what each one of those agencies are able to do on their own, plus what they're getting from us. So how could we do things differently? Big one, but go back to that, I can't afford the food pantry because I'm working the 2 days. That made us change, and it was expand our hours. How do we go to nights? How do we go to weekends? The biggest change I've seen in the 41 years that I've been there, more and more it's about the working poor. We get this label that everybody's lazy, they just come get free food. We like to stereotype all this crap. It's not true. I can tell you our data says 30% of the people come once a year. 70% of the people come 5 times or less. In our healthcare modeling, we want you coming twice a month because that's when we see the best wins, and A1C is going down, and hypertension, even weight loss. So we have a partnership with WW, Weight Watchers, to really help people, get access and what to do with healthier foods. It was also to increase food distribution through a lot of new channels, to create, and this is the biggest one, wraparound services. This is, the second half of our mission statement says co-create a community where everyone thrives. And that's us stepping into the root causes, upstream reasons why people are showing up. Part of that for us was to bring partner organizations that are doing great work into the space where we had food. If all we do is get you great food when you come in, and we didn't really ask why you were there, and could we have prevented a slide down from I can't pay $50 a month this rent to I'm eventually going to be evicted and into homelessness. What if we prevented way upstream? What would that look like? So we've begun to do some things in that space. And then increased frequency of visit. We want you coming more often. That's an antithesis of our model. The old model was give you a 3-day supply of food and hope I never see you again. I solved your problems because I gave you a 3-day supply of food. It was that kind of thing. No, it's about how do we have better health outcomes. So we began to really look at our structure. And this little goofy map you see, each of those dots represent frequency of visits. You can see kind of a reverse T in the middle of this thing, upside down T. It's called a heat map is what that is. Each of those dots, and the darker they are, means more frequent visits in that little particular quadrant of the city. What we read, and this is the same data, this actually came out of Celebrate One. They did this research, and what we discovered in that reverse T is about 84% of our services were being delivered in that. And we were seeing this expansion out east and more need out west when you go to those. So we began to look at where we were servicing, where our great pantries were, our biggest pantries, where we needed to improve service. And this was the beginning of the change. So started with Columbus State. So we put a market literally across the street, trying to help students. As Dr. Harrison was talking about how many of his students, 6,000 or 7,000 students, were quitting after completing 1 of 2 years here because they couldn't afford it. Life happened to them. So what could we do from a food perspective? Hart, amazing pantry out in Reynoldsburg, did great work. They went from, and we helped them build capacity to expand ours. Result of that, they went from 400 families a month to 1,200 a week. It was a really recognition. Come more often, come get food. Really help. There's an amazing Nepali Bhutanese community out in that neck of the woods. We were able to, in the previous Trump administration, we got a lot of lentils donated to us because of tariffs, and we were able to pretty much put them out there. That's one of their staples, and we were able to really help that community. My Project USA on the Hilltop, was partnering, with the Muslim Youth Program to put a market on the Hilltop, in the space up there. Recognizing some of that came right out of the Hilltop plan, in terms of the need there. Norton Roads on the far west side, now where Doctors West is, we were able to buy, Kroger operated they got the convenience store business for a minute. Built a building, 18 months later they closed it. We were able to acquire that facility. It was I told my staff it's the nicest facility we'll ever have because it was brand new. And we were able to open up in a space where there weren't any services, a lot of apartments in that particular, a lot of high need, and we were able to do that. We had some partner space in there. We took the old Starbucks area and put tables up where people could come in, set up services in there. And one of the learnings from that was it wasn't big enough. It was more what we call hoteling. You come and you set up for a minute, and you come in and set up a table, what you see in the back to avail yourselves of the resources, but it's not there permanently. It's not there all the time. St. Stephen's, obviously I started my career there, wonderful pantry. We took advantage. They moved the WIC offices into the rec center when they built a new rec center in Linden, freed up some space, and St. Stephen's wanted to convert into a more of a market. Bishop Griffin Center on the east side tore down their entire space. They were doing some amazing work, and they tore down. We helped them, with dollars we were raising at the time to rebuild that space to truly make it a resource center. Gantz Road was the one, we had a little pantry. It was meant to be a learning pantry at the food bank. By the end of COVID, we were doing 1,000 cars a day driving through there. The military helped us for about a year, and they could serve a car every 30 seconds. Volunteers said, that's a little quick, but we said we got to do better than this. We were able to acquire an Aldi's around the corner for us on a health campus where Ohio Health is, and turn that into a very quick but choice kind of fresh produce distribution to the area. 2 on the joint, we're looking in the Northland area. It'll be a while for that one. CODA is going to be a different model. If all goes well with Eastland Prosperity Center, CODA is going to put a transit center on the front of that. If we can get that worked out with CODA, they also want us to go, there's a new transit center they're building down at Rickenbacker, and they want us to come into that space. We're going to go in there with an all locker model. We have lockers we're testing on the west side of the Norton, which is a refrigerated locker, online ordering. We know people are working, put the product in there, they can come pick it up after shift. Now, fast forward down to Rickenbacker, where you got all those distribution centers. They all work different shifts. We can't afford to staff a market 24 hours a day. So we're going to try an all locker model that'll be supported out of this Eastland Prosperity Center. This is probably the crown jewel of what we're trying to do. So for all you folks, I've got all my new friends from the south side, east side here, who have been amazing partners in helping us think this. We were very active in the Eastland Plan, and we wanted to learn. It was all about learning. We did some great work, with the folks at Celebrate One to understand from their clients and customers what they needed. We were really on a learning journey. What's needed in this community? Now, I can go back in my ancient history days and tell you about the Middle Ring. Is what when Mayor Coleman was still on council with me, before he became mayor, we talked about what do we do with Westland, Northland, and Eastland. As it was starting to see the malls leave, the normal, I hate the word normal in this, but the progression was this would turn into, bad for the housing if we don't figure out what to do with the retail space. Obviously, we started with Northland. Westland wasn't even in the city limits until, the casino came along. And Eastland still had the mall, at the time. So it was the last of the areas. So for me, this was like take my learning from all the way back then before, Mayor Mike was mayor, and say, what do we need to be doing in this area? And to really listen to the community. And that's where the Eastland Plan and the work that was done by the city was amazingly helpful to us. Tell us what we need. And that's, for us, so we're, as you can see, taking an old Kroger and turning it into that facility. It's under construction right now. It'll probably be open next summer if all goes well and we don't have any delays on getting product. And what we're going to do in this space is more than half the space is partner space. And I think for us, that was the real learning. So a big chunk of it is OSU Health Clinic coming in with us. So they have their own FQHC, but they have vision, they have dental, and they have a pharmacy. WIC needs new space on that side of town. So there, as you can see from this, they're going to be right, I think you guys can see all those little, right next to it. The city's Pride Center is coming in there with us. So we're excited about having all those services with us. We're building an outreach center in the middle of that. We have an outreach team, for anybody that knows Mama Diggs. Mama Diggs works for me and has been an amazing partner. Well, we happen to have about 10 or 11 other folks, and they do outreach. So we're going to have our outreach team move there and open up space for other outreach teams to come in as well. Family to Family is a St. Stephen's program with Children's Services is coming in. The latest addition was Jewish Family Services does workforce development. So we're in conversations with Columbus State about how we might bring them into the space as well. So it's a unique opportunity. We're also going to have a Mid-Ohio market there, and we've had this amazing partnership with the librarian community in that area, and they're going to step up and we're going to help train them. They're going to run the market for us. So it's going to be community-based run market is what we're going to do. So it's job opportunities and creating in that space as we have a place for people to shop and get food. And we have a huge community meeting space there. So your meetings are welcome to be there, that kind of thing. Any other community needs to have community meetings because we got a lot of parking in front of that. And if all goes well, when we close out the easement issues we have with CODA, CODA will be on the front of that with a bus transit center there. So good bus access from the space. And we're taking we have a lot of little kitchens. We've got one in the Reeb Avenue Center. I'll give you the idea of the size. It's the old boys' bathroom when it was the Reeb School. Pretty small. But does a lot of good work out of it. We've got one at the food bank. We've got one at Norton. We have a little kitchen from that convenience store. So we've got these little kitchens, and we're going to build a massive production kitchen there. so that we can cook a lot of that fresh food that I talk, and have it readily available for the markets. So for us, and there are other big pantries, we have this amazing pantry tier across the north end. So when you saw that diagram a few back, if I can get this thing to go backwards, we didn't do a whole lot on the northern tier of the county. It's because Hilliard has an amazing pantry now. Out of the fire came a really good, strong community engagement around rebuilding their pantry. Dublin has a wonderful pantry. It's now on Sawmill Road. So it's back in below 270. Worthington runs a phenomenal pantry, just moved into bigger space in Worthington. Warm, covers a lot of the Northeast, part of it, and Grin and Gahanna. So when you go across the tier, I've got these one big, good pantries. So they act like in our world markets. So we were able to address that as well. Across the whole community. It wasn't like we forgot those communities. We already had phenomenal partners in those communities. But this for us in that kitchen really ultimately is designed to cook food to put in a lot of the markets, to cook food for after school. We cook for Cristo Rey High School. We're doing summer feeding programs. So it really is about how can we put more fresh food prepared so we can make it a healthy choice, a convenient one. Last thing I want to talk about is making every acre count. And this is really about our foray into farming and to try to do it a little bit differently. We learned a lot from Clearfield. We have the western edge of the old hospital site on the hilltop. And it was not, as I've learned as an urban kid from Steubenville, dirt is not soil. And that was dirt with footers and everything left in it and all that stuff. And hard as a rock, you're not growing much in the ground until you restore it. So we've been able to acquire 7 acres over there. For me, it goes all the way back to my council days when I was trying to put housing on that whole strip and could get no housing developer to build up there at all. But the health center's there. That's the health center we did the diabetes research. It's there. We had the 7 acres, and we partnered with WODA when they built the affordable housing, and then LifeCare was their partner on the little senior housing building. So that strip now has been turned into, we are actually taking care of the gardens and the growing area. Fortunately, they took that dirt and put it into the raised beds, and so we got to, doesn't grow anything when we tried, so we got to tear that all out. We're tearing that all out, and so that we can have this partnership with the affordable housing project that's there, and with that community that's right around there. But it's all high-tech indoor growing. We got greenhouses, we've got hoop houses, we've got a seed container that grows inside of vertical grow towers. It's really about how much can we produce, how much we can teach kids. We've had 3,600 kids visit there already, 600 Columbus public school kids in one day came through and went through an amazing process to learn from seed all the way up to the salad and tomato that was in their taco, because we have a kitchen in there that we can cook and prepare. So we're excited about, you're seeing some of the pictures of the indoor growing. We take that food immediately to the markets. So it's getting picked, and an hour later, it's been dropped off in one of the markets. It's about as fresh as you can get in terms of food. We're really, and we have another farm, which I didn't talk about, which is behind Channel 4, if you know where that is on Olentangy River Road. And there are about 9 apartment buildings that L-shape around that thing. And they were growing, a lot of those people were growing food in buckets in the parking lot. So we built a community garden for them, gave them access. That's controlled land by the FCC, because it's where all the dishes are for Channel 4. And we got the back half, 3 acres, 3.5 acres of that. But we've got an amazing team of people growing with volunteers. We've grown a lot of food. We built them a community garden section they can access with a key card. They got a tool shed. We put a well in. So they're growing their own food. They're growing stuff I've never seen before. I have no idea what it is. But it really is, up for us, it's about how we can embrace what's going on in the community and strengthen the efforts, use whatever clout and power we have as a big, collective to come together and say, what does each community need, and recognizing that they're all different. So that's what the food bank's up to and the collective is all up to. I just want to say thank you to all of you. I mean, to me, as I've spent 14 years at City Hall, you all were on the ground. You all are the ones that are the eyes and the ears of what's happening in community. You all are the ones that are stepping up. You all are the ones that are giving up your Saturday morning, to come here, and to learn from each other about what really can make a difference. And I cannot tell you, I go back to that one idea from one guy who created the food bank network. One of you may have an idea of a seed of change that could impact the entire community. So I applaud each and every one of you for what you do. And you were the voices. When I was there was only 7 of us, and trying to understand what was going on in each community. We depended on the area commissions. It depended on the civic associations and councils to say, This is what's going on, and this is what we see and what we believe and know we need in our community. And I would implore you to continue to do that. You know, I learned a lot, and I testified in front of Congress once when we sued the Reagan administration back in my early days over what they were doing with trying to take away food money. And I found out, you know, that I was the lead plaintiff in that, and I had to do a press conference with all these United States senators and congressmen. And here's this 22-year-old whippersnapper, you know, going, oh crap, you want to talk about not wanting to do public speaking? I really don't want to do public speaking in that environment where you couldn't even see your podium because there were so many microphones. You know, and I'm sitting there, but the point that I got out of all of it had nothing to do with why I was there. It had to do when I asked those senators and congressmen, how often do you hear from your constituents? And they say almost never. You know, so never assume an elected official knows what your needs are. Because if you don't tell them, they don't know. And they're going to listen to who's ever lobbying them at the time with money, frankly, at Congress in particular. But so your voice matters. And that's, if I leave you with no other message, please understand how much and how important your voice is. And please keep up the great work. Thank you.
What a speech, right? Did you all get anything? Did you all get anything? I heard a couple of things. 85 million pounds of food were needed last year. 85 million pounds. There's still work to be done, guys. And you know what else I heard? Dirt is not soil, right? Are you dirt or are you soil? That's the question today, right? Are you dirt or are you soil? I think everyone in this room is soil because we're planting those good seeds. I'm not going to go on because we are now up against the clock for being able to get you into your sessions. I do want to take a point of personal privilege. None of this is possible without the amazing team led by Rebecca Dietz and David Huey. Round of applause. And our liaisons in the room, if you would just wave your hands. We have 8 liaisons for 21 area commissions across our city, and I am grateful for each and every one of you. As we heard the mayor say, as we just heard our formal council president say, because he knows it very well, we listen. And they listen, and so we're grateful. And I just want to recognize one more group. Would our area commission chairs that are in the room please stand? Y'all know who you are. I want to recognize you for being here on a Saturday, for, as he said, giving up your time, not just tonight, but on the zoning committees. And when people come to your door knocking, because I know they do it, and when all those things because you're there. And then could I get those that are area commissioners that are supporting this great work of our chairs to stand that are in the room today? All of our area commissioners. Look. I love it. We do this because of you. We want your feedback. We want to hear from you. We want to continue to give you what it is you need in your communities to serve well. With that, we are up against our first breakout session that was supposed to start at 11. You will get 5 minutes to freshen up, to grab a cup of coffee, to get down the hall. And our first breakout session will start, am I missing anything? At 11:15. Thank you all for being here this morning.